now we're going to talk about Iran. Okay? So, question on Iran. Is the Iran war legal and is it justified? I'm going to now show you some documentation to answer the question, is it legal and is it justified? And what the heck is going on? So we start with this. Has anyone, I picked this up from the internet. The U.S. Constitution states that only Congress has the power to declare war as outlined in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11. This means that the president cannot start a war without congressional approval. Who has seen this? That's not true. So let's see what it really is. This is the National Archives with the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the United States only uses the word only once, and that's with regard to treason. But as far as the clause in question is, so Congress shall have the power, and if we go down here, to declare war, and there it is, to declare war. Doesn't say is the only guy who can declare war. It says to declare war. So it doesn't say what people say it says. James Madison rewrote the Constitution. The original phrase was Congress shall have the right to make war, but they didn't want that because they had a commander-in-chief, and only the commander-in-chief could make war. So James Madison, father of the Constitution of the Bill of Rights, James Madison replaced the word Congress has the right to make war, Congress has the right to declare war. And that creates a check and balance. Only the president can make war. What does that mean? It means that Congress can't raise an army and send them down to Haiti, which we did a few times. Next. So, how many times has the U.S. officially declared war? In our history of hundreds of wars and military encounters. Anybody want to guess? How many? One. How many? About 20? Zero? How about there? Any? All right. 5. 5. Let's go to the next one. These are the 5 wars that we actually declared by Congress. The War of 1812, just come down, the Mexican-American War, Spanish-American War, World War I, and World War II. And that means that we haven't declared war on anyone since World War II. And this means that all these hundreds of wars and military conflicts that we've been involved have never had a congressional approval. And let's look at a few. That includes our very first war, the War of the Barbary Coast. You've heard from the halls of Montezuma to the shore of Tripoli. That's Libya. So in our very first wars, we never declared war, and that goes back to the early 1800s. Next, Korean War. 3 years, 36,000 people killed, no declaration of war. Next. Vietnam, no declaration of war. Next. In the Balkans, in Croatia, Serbia, no declaration of war. All the presidents have made war on their own. Next. Obama, he bombed Libya. He bombed in Libya for 6 months. Yemen, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, no declaration of war. So this shows, and we'll just do one more here, and that is if anyone thought that we could resort to Article 51, which respects threats to peace and breach and calls for all measures to counteract. There was no international body in World War I, and there was no United Nations during World War II. And all the wars that are fought would not be possible to go to a Security Council which has P5, the US, the UK, Hitler's partner, France. Remember, France was not our ally in World War II. The Free French guerrillas were. France, 4, Communist China, and 5, we had Stalinist Russia. So you're not going to get, so the point is Article 51 does not apply. So we talk about, so what is a just war? Well, in international law, it goes back to 1625. Let's go to Hugo. Hugo Grotius, 1625, international scholar, wrote an important book, and it's right there. It's De Jure Bella ac Pacis Libri Tres, and it's the law of war and peace. And one of his concepts was imminence. If you've got an imminent threat, you don't need to wait, you can act. So what is the definition of imminence? Cocked gun? Is it a bow and arrow facing you? Is it a De Zimmerman telegram that says we're going to get you to help us invade the United States? Let's go next. So in the 50s, our concept of imminence came down to this place right here. This is called Fulda. This is in Germany, the Fulda Gap. And there were 8,000 to 10,000 Soviet tanks arrayed right here. And our military doctrine was the so-called first strike, first use of nuclear weapons. If we thought they were coming across, it wouldn't even take a presidential command. There would be soldiers on the ground who could launch a nuclear weapon, which they called the speed bump, to stop these 8,000 tanks. And what kind of a nuclear weapon was it? It was a nuclear grenade, 20 kilotons. Remember, no nuclear weapons under 99 kilotons covered by international treaty. And this was called the Davy Crockett. And here is a copy. This is an actual photograph of a nuclear grenade, and these are the guys who were in charge of making the decision on whether to start the nuclear war. Next. And that brings us to DEFCON. There's DEFCON 5, where we currently are, is fade out, and cocked pistol, DEFCON 1, which means we're ready for nuclear war. We can go from DEFCON 5 to DEFCON 1 in 20 minutes. All we got to see is a bunch of birds that we misinterpret as missiles coming in, and we can make that calculation. So that is our current nuclear doctrine today. Next. And it was summed up very nicely by Franklin Roosevelt. What imminence was: when you see a rattlesnake poised to strike you, do not wait until he has struck before you crush him. So we know the war is legal, according to every precedent over the centuries. We know the war was legal according to every decision made by every president since the beginning of our country.